Coming up with This Week in Computer Hardware, HDTV deals with Robert Heron. Catalyst drivers are now Crimson. Sweet mini ITX R9 Nano build. YouTube loves cardboard. Kangaroos, pocket-sized Windows 10 PC, and more. It's all coming up next on Twitch.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twitch.
Bandwidth for Twitch is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Twitch, This Week in Computer Hardware, episode 340, recorded November 5th, 2015. AMD kills Catalyst. This episode of This Week in Computer Hardware is brought to you by Braintree. Even the best mobile app won't work without the right payments API. That's where the Braintree V.0 SDK comes in. One amazingly simple integration gives you every way to pay. Try out the sandbox and see for yourself at braintreepayments.com/Twitch. This episode of This Week in Computer Hardware is brought to you by Wealthfront. Wealthfront is a low-cost, automated investment service that is the most sophisticated way for you to invest your money. Whether you've got millions or just starting out, visit wealthfront.com/Twitch to sign up and get your free personalized investment portfolio. That's wealthfront.com/Twitch. This episode of This Week in Computer Hardware is brought to you by Whole Home. Whole Home is more than a smart thermostat. It's a home energy controller that helps you save money and displays your energy use in real time. For a 30% discount, visit wholehome.com/Twitch. Welcome to Twitch, This Week in Computer Hardware, Twitch's weekly show that aims to bring you the most useful, most informative, most engaging, most delightful, and most graphite-filled news about technology on the interwebs. This is a podcast, people. We love to talk. Ryan Shrout, I suspect, is under a giant pile of baby vomit right now, or perhaps traveling. So joining us, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special guest all the way from San Leandro, California, Mr. Robert Heron, a.k.a. HeronFidelity.com, my partner in crime. You know, I can't even mention some of those things. The statute of limitations haven't run out. How you doing, man?
I'm great. Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be here. It's great to hang out with you, too. And the Twit audience.
Twit audience. My goodness. Twitch, This Week in Computer Hardware. I'll start doing that again, and then I'll just do it over and over like an endless, terrible loop. HDTV deals. I'm going to just fire this out now. You just posted this up on HeronFidelity.com this morning, the deal alert. It's pretty much Black Friday. If you're buying a TV, is already here.
Pretty much. And there are some terrific deals. I mean, even I was just comparing prices to last week, and there are a handful of TVs out there with significant reductions. A couple I even found that are $500 less than an already discounted price of last week. So if you've been holding out thinking the Black Friday prices are going to probably be a little bit better, you were right. You were exactly right. And there's a ton of great deals out there. Everything on that page is pretty much stuff that's at the lowest price or at a new low price. So, and it's stuff I would at least consider looking at. All the major manufacturers are represented. Also a couple of projectors too. Got to leave that in there. And some cord cutting gear and other good stuff. But there are tons of good screens at every price point. So if you're looking for the latest OLED or 1080p or super big screen 4K, it's all good. You've waited to the right moment, and I'm not sure how much lower prices are going to get before the year's end. Probably not a whole hell of a lot more. I'm thinking it's getting down there. It just seems like it's no longer Black Friday. This year in particular was weird compared to last year. I'm just seeing that prices are simply, they start off when a new TV comes out, it's going to be at the peak price, and then it is quickly chopped down to something that remains fairly static, and then it might fluctuate by 20% for a particular sale week, like it is right now. So
it's no longer, because it used to be like it would be at its most expensive when it was released, then it would dip down in price. Then as, you know, they started running out of inventory before the new models came out, the price would go back up. Are we no longer seeing that little kick at the end anymore?
I just see I see more fluctuations, especially like right after a weekend, like right after the football season started. Suddenly the prices tick back up again. And then right when baseball season was ending, it seemed like prices were also coming back down again. So there was that weird crossover week where it dipped briefly, but now it's right back up. So you can't go wrong. And like I said, the technology is as good as it's ever been. And there's more options out there for it. And if you're on the cutting edge and you want some new features like high dynamic range video support, 4K, of course, and even expanded color palettes too, that is all out there now, and you can dive into it as far as you want at prices that are better than they've ever been. So it's really hard to say no to somebody looking for the latest and greatest right now. I'm just happy to see those OLED TVs in particular coming down in price. Still, the 4K TVs are still going to be expensive for an OLED panel, even at 55 inches.
Like $2,000, $5,000, $10,000. Okay. So getting in the neighborhood of the
4K, and then about $5,000 for the 65-inch version. And LG hasn't. They announced that 77-inch version that could be flat or curved at the press of a button, but they never released it. So I'm curious to see if that's just going to be a new 2015 model or 2016 model, or if they're actually going to get that out before year's end. I kind of have a feeling they're going to hold off and reintroduce that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I would be in the chat, but the chat system keeps kicking me out. So closing me and restarting the session. I just want to let that know in case anybody's wondering why I'm not exploring the joys of chat. YouTube's VR vehicle of choice is Google's no-frill cardboard headset. I'm not entirely sure this is particularly surprising, seeing that Google's cardboard headset is designed to advance all things googly, i.e. give you the sort of functionality of the Samsung headset we've seen for considerably less money. You know, it's interesting. If you've ever experienced the cardboard, it actually works shockingly well, right? You basically strap a smartphone to your face with a box. You know, so on Thursday, oh my goodness, my CNET's changed its page layout, so now it's expanding in strange and unusual ways when I slide it. Richard Nieva wrote up on YouTube. Where is it? Like Cardboard's YouTube's virtual reality lab is Spartan. They've totally scrubbed it, but essentially they're trying to make 360 videos in 3D super, super accessible, right? You can now view 360 videos in 3D. They're making every single video in YouTube's massive library viewable on Cardboard. Just open up YouTube's Android smartphone app, play a video, and tap the Cardboard icon. For videos that weren't originally meant to be viewed through VR goggles, it will reformat them to look like you're watching in an IMAX theater. It will eventually migrate to the iPhone applications for YouTube, but they're not talking about when. But it's curious to watch as this evolves because, you know, the other article that came out this morning is from Lytro, the camera company, or the company that was known for the camera where you could sort of pick your depth of field. And it was fairly low resolution. And it was more of a gimmick than something that was, you know, particularly exciting, I think, for a lot of people. But they've announced this crazy next generation VR camera rig. There's a write-up on it on Bloomberg. It's going to start at $250,000, so it's obviously for very high-end professionals. But as we start looking for things, you know, for the various, like the Oculus Rift and all the other competing VR technologies out there, you have to create something interesting to put inside of that virtual world. And what a lot of people are doing now involves these really cool mechanisms that involve things like strapping, you know, a half dozen or more GoPro cameras, you know, each into its own discrete box, and then having this sort of like bundle of cameras on a stick that looks like a microphone stand for a taper at a Deadhead concert, trying to create true 360-degree surround sound, except they're pointing video cameras in every direction. You know, so the Emerge rig is doing something vastly, vastly different. You know, because taking a 6-pack, a 12-pack, a 24-pack of GoPros is certainly an intermediary. But, you know, it's essentially it's a spherical array of high-definition video cameras in rings on a 3-legged base. So it sees 360 degrees around the center. They call the Bloomberg article says Lytro calls the new capture method a light field volume, and Stephen Pulveron's writing that up for Bloomberg. It's an interesting idea. It'll be interesting to see how well it works, right? Because there's going to be a giant bundle of cameras, a huge amount of video that's going to be in there. It's going to be difficult to use in the field because it's not going to be particularly portable, despite the fact that they show that beautiful shot in the birches there. Prototypes aren't going to be ready until 2016, but the camera, server storage, and the licensing will probably be like $250,000 to $500,000. $6,000 or $8,000 a day to rent a unit. That's a pretty big investment, not maybe for a major movie, but it's an interesting idea. And it's certainly something we're seeing in a lot of different directions where people are trying to figure out how to create interesting things to put on the inside of your goggles.
I had the chance to try out the VR headsets with Samsung's phones, stuck in one of their holders. And that's very similar to what Google's doing with their cardboard setup, effectively using that mobile device you're carrying around that has 1080p or 4 times that resolution or greater.
Right.
Having a display like that, especially with an OLED screen, like on the case of Samsung's latest smartphones, you get that great contrast performance. You get plenty of resolution for your eyes to appreciate. And the thing I found that was missing was having recorded content that matched the resolution of the display you were looking at. The 360 effect, to be able to look around in the environment, that seems to work really well. The latency's great. I just felt that everything was still a little too fuzzy, and I really wanted the resolution to kick up. And I don't see any mention of what the resolution of the Lytro, their new 360 camera setup, will offer. But anything that can go to improving that, and eventually that's going to happen with all of these VR recording methods, in a sense. But that's the thing I want to see jump up first. Is just get the resolution up, and then go from there. But
well, part of it
for me, I just love it.
I mean, I certainly agree with the desperate need for more resolution, and I think the hardware manufacturers are working on that. And the phones kind of, especially like the Quad HD phones, kind of take an end run around that. Part of what's interesting about this is because of the way the Lytro, that whole concept of them capturing, a light field, is that they're basically capturing color, intensity, and the direction of the beams, right? That's what they're supposed to be doing, and then sort of recreating the image using their software algorithm. And what they're claiming is with this crazy, massive rig, this UFO on a stick or a tripod, is the idea that you'll get accurate parallax, and as your head moves, you won't have as many issues with sort of the reality and or the vomit-inducing feel of the camera. I think it's going to be really curious because, I've heard some pitches for what people are going to do. And in a lot of cases, if you have a completely rendered 3D environment and, if the goggles finally, the headsets, the glasses, the immersive VR headgear, whatever we're going to call it next year, adjusts well, it'll be much more realistic and much less vomit-inducing for some people. I don't know. I mean, are there any kind of apps for this you're particularly excited about? Or is you just kind of curious just to see what shows up?
Just the ability to look around an environment, and if there's a way to do it in real time, like either have it on a mast at popular locations or things like that. One of the demos I saw too was just simply a vehicle, like a snowcat up in the mountains, wherever this was, I don't recall. But they had a 360-degree camera rig on the top of the snowcat as it drove around. So no matter where it was, you could just quickly put on your headset and just get a good look of the environment this was in. And it was like just immediately transporting yourself to a distant place that was just visually compelling. And for that kind of stuff, I love it. And if they can, like I said too, my only complaint so far, at least I haven't done a lot of gaming in 3D, but as far as just the virtual travel of being able to enjoy a different location, I just simply wanted the resolution to step up. I know what the capability of these portable displays are, and I just want to see the capture process and the editing and how you bring that all together into something that looks compelling. And at the same time, some of the content I was looking at too is very curated in the sense that, we had to go through this frame by frame for the lower camera shots that could see the mast, and we had to digitally erase the mast on every one of these. If there could be things to help automate that and to help the content creators just get their best work out there as quick as possible, and improve the quality of it, and a format that's universally accepted and easy to edit, and all of the things that go into making it easier for the artists and people interested to just do the content they want. I think.
Interesting thought. No, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. No, it's all a mess now. But that's how all new things kind of start. It's a beautiful mess, and it has so much potential. If nothing else, Facebook will make an incredible environment for teenagers to pretend make out in virtual reality, which is kind of
That'll
horrifying
never
when you
catch
think
on.
about it. You know what's going to catch on?
Never say never.
Payments on the internet, people. This episode of This Week in Computer Hardware is brought to you by Braintree. Developers around the world have embraced the Braintree V.0 SDK as the easiest way to add secure mobile payments to their apps and websites. It doesn't matter what the payment type is. Braintree accepts it. Apple Pay, Android Pay, PayPal, Venmo, credit cards, even Bitcoin. Something new pops up. Braintree is going to support that too. It's the same payment solution used by Uber, Airbnb, and GitHub, so you know it's scaled. I think Uber and Airbnb are processing a fair amount of cash at this point. Excuse me, credit or whatever, because Braintree is trying to accept it all. Simple, secure payments. The code you can integrate in minutes. They're really big about supporting developers, and they're really big about keeping it simple. There's SDK in 7 languages, .NET, Node.js, Java, Perl, PHP, Python, Ruby. They've got code support for Android, iOS, and JavaScript clients. It's 10 lines of code. And people who read code and can get something out of it other than confusion, say it is actually fairly elegant code. 10 lines, people. 10 lines, get your payments sorted out. And check this out. We got an offer for you. Braintree gives you an easy way to accept multiple payment types with one integration. Integrating it into your apps is as easy as inserting a few lines of code. Do us a favor, check it out in a sandbox. Get a sandbox environment for you to test in. And that's braintreepayments.com/twitch. And seriously, if you're looking to figure out how to do payments a little bit better on your website, braintreepayments.com/twitch. We want to thank them for their support of This Week in Computer Hardware. So it's pretty odd. Have you seen? So Nvidia was offering game-ready drivers in mid-October.
I installed new game-ready drivers last night.
It's funny. Did you have to do the whole sort of? Did you have to give them a registered email address to get signed up for that in the GeForce Experience?
No, but I do have the latest version of GeForce Experience, so maybe I had to do that before. So this was just fairly, hey, there's new drivers available, and it did fix a few other weird issues I was having related to older apps I'm running on Windows 10. So
that's cool.
For all of that, I'm happy.
A happy Robert is a happy Robert. It's a good thing. Well, so it was funny. Scott Michaud wrote up that they're doing a giveaway for GeForce GTX. The win-free hardware part, because the idea was like you give them the information, you get game-ready drivers, and you have the access to new features, chances to win hardware, the ability to participate in driver development. So essentially, there's a new list of games that are coming up. Assassin's Creed Syndicate, Call of Duty, Black Ops 3, Civilization Online, Fallout 4, yes, Just Cause 3, Monster Hunter Online, Overwatch, yes, Roller Coaster Tycoon World, StarCraft 2, Legacy of the Void, Star Wars Battlefront, yes, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege, War Thunder, and they're going to try to get they plan to get game-ready drivers, all of them certified by Microsoft, the WICL driver certification program. But the company, Nvidia, is going to be giving away $100,000 worth of prizes, including graphics cards up to the GTX 980 Ti, game keys, Shield Android TV boxes, one of which is I'm actually have for sale on Craigslist right now if you're looking for one. But you do have to register with GeForce Experience and use it to download the latest game-ready drivers. So if you want free stuff, take a look at the links up on PC Per or go to the NVIDIA blog and check out their $100,000 hardware giveaway for the holiday season. So much stuff.
I want a new graphics card.
GTX 980T, GeForce GTX 960s, 950s, Shield Android TV boxes. It's a good giveaway. If you want a chance to win free stuff, you and millions of your friends will be in on that. Really insane news. Ryan wrote this up for PC Per. AMD is no longer calling and going back to ATI did this. Catalyst was the graphics driver for their GPUs. Catalyst Control Center, it got bigger with Radeon. But, writes Ryan Shrout, it had more than its share of issues. It was slow, it was ugly, and using it was kind of awful. And today we mourn the passing of Catalyst, but welcome the birth of Radeon software and the first iteration of it, Crimson. So, next major driver released from AMD. Supposedly, we're going to see a much better interface. And it's funny, if you're looking at that screen right now, if you're watching on video, what you have is the 2002, the 2006, and the 2011 versions of the AMD Catalyst Control Center. Yeah. So the Catalyst name is gone, which is being replaced by Radeon software. Crimson Edition is the major revision of the software and will likely be a portion of the brand, writes Ryan, that changes with the year with important architectural changes. Finally, the numeric part of the branding will basically give the year and month of release. So Radeon software, Crimson Edition 15.11, which is the minor versions of it. I'm kind of curious to see it, because if you scroll down the Radeon settings, keep scrolling down a little bit more. Keep going. Right down there. That's like the overclocking settings. This is a beautiful piece of design. This looks pretty. They're promising improved Eyefinity configuration, automatic driver downloads, cleaner setup. If you scroll back up a little bit more, there's settings in there for Bastion, and it's, configure custom graphic. It's just keep going up a little bit farther if you're watching the video. And yeah, it's,
I like
this
that
is a
interface
radical
right there.
It's a beautiful interface. And if it works and it's not slow, it'll be an amazing interface. So props to AMD for the redesign and the introduction of Crimson. I look forward to getting my grubby little paws on it, in part because the R9 Nanos are really cool. Ryan did a write-up on PC Pro. It just came out 2 or 3 days ago. The case for the AMD Radeon R9 Nano, powerful gaming in small places. And we've talked about the R9 Nano pretty extensively because it's really badass performance, but a considerably lower power consumption than the Fury X. And it goes into a single fan dual slot cooler basically inside the case. It's 6 inches long. It's a full scale GPU. It's pretty badass. So it should fit into any enclosure. So Ryan did a whole bunch of R9 Nano builds, including, he had here's some of the options out of there. Note there are many more mini ITX cases that don't support a full height or dual slot expansion card at all. But looking at some of the nicer cases that are available from Cooler Master, Cooltech, ton of cases, micro ATX cases or mini ITX cases from Leanne Lee. And if you keep going down, you'll see basically, what he was doing to actually make it fit. There's like a Noctua CPU cooler that doesn't take up much space. That's the Cooler Master Elite 110. And going through what it takes to actually stuff all of this in there. If you haven't seen it, the Leanne Lee, scroll up a little bit, the Leanne Lee PC Q30X, right there, that's the one. If you keep sliding down, you'll see it after it's built. It's the bright red shiny light inside of the case, and the case kind of arcs back from you. You'll either love that design or hate it. And keeps going down the Radeon Tech Metis, which is probably more my speed, which is a super simple black box with a brushed blue aluminum finish. Don't know how I feel about blue, but the fact that there's no window in this case I find really attractive. The downside is what happens in some of these cases is there can be limited airflow depending on how compact they are and how good a job they do with that. And it's really funny, if you scroll down from that Radeon Tech, the Metis, they fixed the airflow problem and got the cooling sorted out by drilling a bunch of holes. Alan went home and got his drill press out and went nuts. And now they no longer have airflow problems inside of that case. But
Just
it's
dust.
interesting to think about. Yeah, well, I mean, what's the smallest case? What's the smallest case you've ever actually built something into?
The micro ATX, no, I take that back. Mini ITX. So the approximately 6-inch square motherboard is arguably my favorite platform of all. Although you tend to pay more for that miniaturization, and you limit yourself in terms of if you needed 2 PCI Express slots for graphics cards, right. Typically you're only going to get 1. And other than that, for most scenarios, though, I find I'll take that smaller size over anything larger. And my current system is a full size ATX motherboard in a large case. I am totally done with that. And my next system will at least be the micro ATX. And in terms of just getting that size down, and to be able to use a smaller case where you couldn't even fit an ATX motherboard into the case. I'm not talking about going as small as possible, but that happy medium I really like with the micro ATX boards, just in terms of being able to have a couple of slots, plenty of room for things like RAM and hard drives and what have you. But at the same point, also just the just not quite as, I'm not going for pure size per se in terms of just making it as small as possible. This still leaves me enough case room and things like that to go with whatever cooler I want or whatever graphics card I want. I'm not going to limit myself in those two areas in particular. But I agree with you, though, in terms of, you know, I like things as quiet as possible nowadays. And I do not need a window in my computer for any kind of light shining out of it, so to speak. So those are things that do not interest me. If I'm looking at a case design, it's usually something that's completely sealed up. More to just to keep the dust out than anything else, or less cleaning involved. The less I have to take my system outside and blow it all out, the better. Now, at least the summer days are over, so maybe I'll get away with less dusting for the rest of the year. But still,
less dusting is good. Yeah, I mean the big takeaway for them was that you know, don't get the R9 Nano unless you're looking for a super small case, and be aware of airflow issues inside of the case. Those are really cool, though. I mean, it's ridiculous how much gaming power you can get into something that's small now. I now want to build a cigar box PC. It's close.
I do too, but for my workstation, though, I was actually pricing out the parts, and I was looking at a micro ATX motherboard. Something that definitely supports an M2 style hard drive, the basically the gum stick sized SSDs that install in the newest motherboards. And other than that, I would want a full size graphics card. So, and other than that, I was looking at some fairly affordable parts. I was really kind of eyeballing the Corsair. They have an Obsidian Series 350D. It's been out for a while. It's like $80 or something. And it's just made to be quiet. And it has excellent externally removable air filters on it. So I don't have to crack the case open to get all the air filters out to clean them out for when it is required to keep it dust free. But
there's a company that actually makes these giant wrappers, breathable wrappers that go over PC cases, and I'm starting to think those are super tempting. I've also been amazed at how big a difference it makes just to get the computer up off the floor. It's kind of staggering how big just getting my computers off the floor has done so much for the cleanliness of the motherboards inside of those cases. So.
Without a doubt. I'm fortunate to have a desk, not only is it a glass top desk, but it also has a one of those hanging holders for your box, basically, for the computer itself. So it's easy to keep it clean under it. And I love it. I absolutely love it. So I agree with you on getting the PC off the floor, though. It helps a lot.
It's amazing, especially if you have cats. Oh, my goodness. Let's take a moment to thank one of our sponsors, Wealthfront, people. You know you should be investing your money for the long term, for your health, for your family's financial health. You know, you might want to retire someday, not work until the day they pack you into a box underground. You might be wondering how you should do it. Most people aren't given sound financial advice or any financial advice growing up. Save money. Well, that's nice. And, you know, a tiny passbook savings account rates. It's basically, you might as well put it in a mattress, right? That's why Wealthfront's so cool. Traditional financial advisors charge pretty big fees, between 1% and 3% of what you got under management. It accumulates over time. It adds up the amount they take away from you. There's hidden fees in a lot of cases for transaction and changes. Wealthfront makes it easy for anybody to access world-class long-term investment management. Get started today. At a minimum of $500. Just go to wealthfront.com. You can get set up in minutes. It goes right to work monitoring your portfolios around the clock and taking action as soon as an opportunity arises, which is basically what a lot of the brokers do. Is they stare at a screen and an alarm goes off and it tells them to do something and they do it. They might call you before. It's all commission free, right? Which means, you know, that 1% here, 2% there, $50 here, $70 there. Without the commissions, that means you're making more money over time. And over time, little bits here, little bits there is how you make money. The software optimizes your investments for what they think is the best risk-free adjusted return, net of taxes and fees. It's transparent. It's accessible. You can view all of your accounts in one place. Sophisticated investment strategies like tax loss harvesting and direct indexing are available. They optimize your after-tax returns while simultaneously lowering your tax bill. And that's good. Paying less taxes leaves more money for you to invest and grow over time. You pay 1% a year with Wealthfront. That's 25 basis points, 0 commissions, and no hidden fees. Basically, That's less than $5 a month to invest a $30,000 account. That's cheap. No additional charges for any Wealthfront services. And Wealthfront's pretty big. They're managing over $2.6 billion in client assets. It's grown over 20 times in the past 2 years. Do yourself a favor. Join Wealthfront. Start investing your money the right way today. And if you go to wealthfront.com/Twitch to sign up, you'll get a free personalized investment in portfolio. You'll get your customized allocation they recommend for your profile. And just for Twit listeners, just because you're listening to Twitch and Wealthfront is sponsoring us, if you sign up to invest, Wealthfront will manage your first $15,000 entirely free of charge for life. Do yourself a favor. Get started saving. Get started investing. Make it easy and painless. Save money. Claim your offer today at wealthfront.com/Twitch. That's wealthfront.com/TWiCH. And we want to thank them for their support of This Week in Computer Hardware. For compliance purposes, I have to tell you that Wealthfront Incorporated is an SEC-registered investment advisor. Brokerage services are offered through Wealthfront Brokerage Corporation, member FINRA, and SIPC. This is not a solicitation to buy or sell securities. Investing in securities involves risks, and there is the possibility of losing money. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. Please visit wealthfront.com to read their full disclosure. Oh, my goodness. So we had the next generation of routers showed up earlier this year. Not so much in the multi-user MIMO, and not so much in sort of the AC 47,000 or whatever the sort of made up performance is. But one of the things that's been interesting is we've been seeing them for a while. But the idea of a managed router. Google's OnHub was the kind of the big one. TP-Link's making that. There's some competitors to that coming out that are also Google routers, with the idea that Google's going to bring its intelligence to a router, manage all of these antennas, and sort of make the process of making Wi-Fi work better, easier. The first one came out from TP-Link. The second one, which also is sort of a vertical cooling tower tubes coming out from Asus, and Jacob Castronakis has a write-up on The Verge about Luma, which is a new router system. And I love the title on this one. This new router lets you spy on what everyone in the house is doing. And of course, if you're a network admin, you know that you're always capable of spying what everyone in the house is doing, because you've got you've got access to MAC addresses. You know what people are doing. You know what time they're doing it. So Luma, Jacob writes, a new router system, quote, that's supposed to make it easier to fill a home with strong Wi-Fi and provide a homeowner with much more control over what happens on their network. And it looks like a giant pill, which is actually kind of attractive, more attractive than I think I make it sound. But they have a companion app that runs on your phone. They show, and it's kind of information that may already be in your router if you can figure out where it is, because most router menus are a nightmare, even if you're a geek and spend a lot of time with them. But they're basically talking about what they're connected to and what they're doing. So yeah, if you take a look at that screen we've got right up right now, it's actually looking at what's going on. You can create settings for children. You see, like, quote, what servers your smart thermostat is connecting with to the exact websites that people in your house are viewing. So it's not showing content, but if it's www.incredibly-naughty-things-involving-farm-animals.com, you pretty much know what they're looking at. Hope I can say that on a family show without getting bleeped out.
This looks a lot easier than what you're getting with most traditional routers in terms of looking at log files.
Exactly.
And then, I can limit users on a per, MAC address style level or something like that. This is like, do you want this person on your network? Yes or no?
Right.
What level of content do you want them to be looking at? And then in terms of, like, especially for parental monitoring, it's like, what are they looking at? And if you can do screen caps like it's showing right there for instant view and things like that, I think those are pretty effective tools that a parent would want, especially, and to give them some power that, a pro network admin would have, but put it in an interface that, it's usable. You can have it on your mobile device, and it looks like a good thing. So
my goal is to just keep my children off the internet until they're 30. I think that's probably the only way to keep them safe.
But I think those kind of controls are, you should know that if you don't own the wireless network you're on, you're at the mercy of whoever then to try to get that. Oh, my puppies. You're going to jump off? Go ahead. Go on. What are you doing? There you go. Sorry about that. I had a visitor on my lap. Let's see. Yeah, and I just want parents and anyone though to be able to have better tools. I'm often disappointed by the fact that my router does track every stupid thing that goes through it, but it doesn't make it the easiest in terms of actually using it or monitoring that kind of information, short of using third-party apps or other tools to do that. So I like having all the controls on an app like that, and to be able to see what my kids are actually looking at, just to help keep the parent involved. And so, because granted, it seems to me that most young people are pretty quick to learn things and to figure out ways around everything. So anything to help make it a little easier for folks out there, I'm good with that.
It'll be interesting to see.
For my own network, wide open, but for anyone else,
wide open. Well, it's also curious because this is part of this next generation of smart routers where they're promising to detect viruses instantly, to keep intruders out. But to a certain point, your router is actually pretty good at that already if it's implemented properly. It'll be interesting because the other thing is, as you get more sophisticated, more complicated, it usually opens up more opportunities for hackers to get inside of your system. GetLuma.com is the website. The pre-order price is super cheap. They're supposed to ship this summer, but apparently they're not going to ship until next year at this point. But I thought it was an interesting thing to take a look at, especially as the Google On hubs start to multiply and come from more and more vendors. Man, Josh Walworth over at PC Per, he reviewed the Thrustmaster T150 force feedback wheel, which is one of the more badass wheels, at least it's certainly in price. It is a $200 gaming wheel. Quote, for those that are serious about their racing games, a wheel is a must. Sure, there are plenty of people that are good with a console controller, but that does not provide the same experience. In fact, racing games do quite a bit of compensation when it comes to steering, acceleration, and braking when it detects a console controller. So basically, it's a different game experience in many cases. So this is, Microsoft, and I used to have one of these, had the Sidewinder FFB wheel that was around $200. Most basic wheels kind of suck. They're up to around $100. And then, as Josh points out, the next kind of price level seems to be like 300 plus, which is kind of pricey. Logitech G27, Thrustmaster TXs. So this was an idea that there would be a better force feedback wheel that has some of the higher end wheel features. And he gets pretty deep in this one. Full round of driving testing, talks about the pedals and what's going on with there. And so the force feedback system is fairly strong, but not nearly as strong as that of higher end system, which I think makes a lot of sense because you're only paying $200. You're not paying like thousands of dollars. Support in some games is currently hit or miss. In Project Cars, Josh writes, the wheel should use the T500 preset, works perfectly in Dirt Rally. It's not recognized, and he had to remap the wheel every time he started the game. This is apparently not uncommon, he notes, with new wheels, as the Logitech G29/920 did the exact same thing. So that's just something that should go away as the wheel becomes more known by the manufacturers. He thinks Thrustmaster, he writes, set out to redefine the entry-level enthusiast wheel, and I think they did a very good job of it. It is not a perfect wheel. It has some drawbacks, but it seems to be very competitive for the price and put its money in the places that'll make the biggest difference to gamers that are looking to step up their play with a better gaming wheel. So he's just looking at it if you're looking for a way to up your motorsports gaming. I'm kind of tempted to get one of those for the kids to play with, but I think my wife would kill me if I took over the kitchen table and turned it into a gaming environment.
I've owned some pretty high-end wheels over the years, and my biggest complaint really was that either the force effects were unadjustable, and in some cases they were too strong, to which just it's like, okay, I'm struggling to work at controlling a video game, and that suddenly would take me right out of it. So if there's a way to be adjustable, and I also noticed that this one appears to be easily updatable as well with a click of a button within the app. So, and God knows, I love the name Thrustmaster. I think that is just like the best company name ever. So I'm willing to give them a nod. I think I focus not so much as much on racing wheels anymore, as I tend just to use whatever the controller is, either with the console or in some cases on the PC. But normally when I'm doing racing, it's usually on a console system with a wheel. And then otherwise, though, I still look to good high-end joysticks, be it from Thrustmaster or other companies, for flying games, be it helicopter simulators or commercial jet simulators or anything like that. So a good peripheral can really, really get you into it, and having it to be being able to customize it to your preferences. Because some people, honestly, they want the wheel, but they don't want any force feedback. They'd rather have it be totally like where you can fingertip control the wheel, and just so you get the visual with less distraction physically. And so it has to be able to play to a variety of different, styles of gameplay when you're using a device like that. So it's good. It's good to see more products like it. Although that one looks like it was specific for PlayStation in his case.
Right.
So that'd be pretty cool.
Oh my goodness!
And there are some epic driving games coming out right now too. So in the next month or so.
Don't tell me. There are too many I don't have time to play right now. We talked about
you too.
Yeah, well, that whole sleeping thing is totally overrated. We talked about ECS's Leva X2 a while ago on Tech Thing here in the show. They did a write-up on it this week on PC Per. And it's funny, it's a Braswell N3050 system on a chip. It's usually a 2 gigabyte configuration, although you can get it in 4 gigabytes, 802.11ac, Bluetooth 4.0, HDMI, and USB 3.0. It's an interesting box. It's a great home theater box. It is not a great desktop box. But if you're looking for something that's much more powerful than a lot of the Chrome stick, Android stick / Linux stick that plug into an HDMI port, this is certainly worth being on your short list because it is a fully featured PC. Like I would not want to use it as my desktop, but for $170, it has a lot of opportunity as kind of a small home theater box or something to do a pretty badass implementation or Plex or something like that. I bring that up because it's something we hadn't seen before. And I should give a shout out to Sebastian Peak, who wrote that up for PC Per, is the Kangaroo, which is also Sebastian wrote this week. And this is crazy. It's from InFocus, the projector people, and they're calling it the, quote, world's smallest personal, powerful, portable PC, and it's $99, and it's running Windows 10. It looks like a 2.5-inch external hard drive, writes Sebastian. It's got a quad-core Intel Atom, a Cherry Trail X5 Z8500 processor that's running at like 1.44 gigahertz. It'll turbo up to 2.24 gigahertz. 2 gigabytes of RAM, 32 gigabytes of eMMC storage, dual-band 802.11ac, a built-in fingerprint reader. This is kind of fascinating. And then Kangaroo says the battery should last up to 4 hours of casual use without wall power. I thought this was kind of fascinating. Like, it's got this unusual 40-pin docking connector, so it'll do like, USB 2.0, 3.0 HDMI, or you can unplug that. Micro USB and micro SD, and the fingerprint printer are on the main board, selling for $99 on Newegg. It's funny. OS Link's iOS app can run on your iPads and allow you to use the tablet as a monitor. Quote, your iPad is all you need to have to enjoy the benefits of your Kangaroo PC on the go. OS Link's Windows monitor turns your iOS device into a primary display for Kangaroo PC. Connects to a PC through a Lightning to USB cable, works with OS Link's server installed on the Kangaroo PC, supports mouse as well as multi-touch gestures. I keep thinking that some of my friends that hack and do pen testing will have a lot of fun with this. Not a high-powered device, but a really interesting portable computer for something. Something's going to do something interesting with that.
At $99 too, that could be a product you would just stick to the back of a TV for like signage or something like that as well, or even like a basic internet kiosk or something like that, where you don't need blazing performance, but at the same point, you could run a full operating system on there and customize it however you want. So and that price seems awfully right. Although I wouldn't depend on an Atom processor for day-to-day computing. That I've never found those to be enough, so to speak. But for very dedicated use scenarios like browsing on a TV or just playing signs or something like that. I think it'd be perfect. Then if you were going to use it like that, though, would you really need something like a fingerprint reader or something like that? But that could be for the installation folks to say, hey, we'll put this on the TV, but it's going to be somewhere where it might be accessible. This will help keep just random people from messing with it, something like that. Maybe that's a good reason to have a thumbprint reader on there as well. So I like it. Cool looking.
Yeah. It's, and simple. I kind of like, and they didn't try to put a keyboard and a monitor on it, which makes it much more usable, I think. Oh my goodness. One more ad, ladies and gentlemen. It is the holiday season. Whole Home. We talked about this before. Actually, Whole Home sponsoring the show. It's powered by Energate. They're a leading supplier of utility-grade interactive energy management solutions that are secure and reliable. It has only been available to utilities until now. It's interesting. It looks like a smart thermostat, Whole Home, but it's actually a home energy controller that basically displays your energy use in real time. It's pretty cool. It's got a built-in teaching thermostat, right? So we've seen that in other ones. But what it does is replace your existing thermostat and connects to your Wi-Fi, interacts with your smartphone. Sounds familiar, right? But it's got Zigbee. Basically, what it does is it connects to your Zigbee-enabled smart meter, so you can actually monitor your electricity usage in real time. And it's kind of freaky when you fire up the dryer in my house and watch the meter go through the roof. They have a really simple system to install it. Yeah, you answer simple questions. What time do you get up on a typical day? The setup wizard wants to get you in control without having to open up a manual, which is always a plus thing. Works with 95% of all heat pumps and conventional heating and cooling systems. And they have a simple app you can go through on their website to figure out whether or not you have one of the rare heating and cooling systems that won't automatically work, and then the tools to get you around that. The LEDs on the front respond to price changes, which is really cool. So you can have it set up so that when electricity is expensive, you get a heads up to avoid energy intensive things, right? So if electricity is more during this time of day than that time of day, you can keep an eye on the Whole Home as you walk by. Know that, hey, I probably shouldn't fire up the dryer or the laundry. Or anything else that turns electricity into heat and burns money, like the dishwasher or the electric oven. It's pretty cool. As soon as you install a Whole Home, it's going to try to start minimizing your heating and cooling energy costs and show you how much you're saving in both dollars and kilowatt hours. Whole Home, it's more than a smart thermostat. And we want to thank them for their support of This Week in Computer Hardware. And they got a deal for you. If you go to wholehome.com/twit, you're going to get a code. You're going to receive an exclusive 30% limited time discount. That's HOLHOM.com/twit. We want to thank Whole Home for their support again of This Week in Computer Hardware. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool device. It's easy to set up. If you can operate a screwdriver, you can install a new thermostat, and you probably should because the new ones are pretty amazing. So... You mentioned in pre-show that you were excited about getting yourself a G-Sync gaming monitor. Are you in the mood to upgrade your monitor?
I would love to, actually. I either need one large monitor to augment the two 24-inch monitors I currently use, and I figure if I'm going to do that, might as well get one of those beautiful new gaming monitors that address a long-standing issue with PC gamers, and that's in terms of the game's frame rate, how it's being computed internally in the hardware versus what the monitor itself is actually how quickly it updates the display. And between AMD and Nvidia's solutions for their monitor technologies, I'm just like, it's about time. And I'm currently using Nvidia hardware, so this new Predator monitor really caught my attention. I love that design. It just looks cool. IPS panel gives you the wide viewing angle, 2560 by 1440. 100% sRGB, which is good to know. It means it's going to do your HD video playback perfectly. And what is the peak refresh rate for this sucker? 165 hertz. That's up there. I mean, 144 is where a lot of people were going for a year ago. And this is, I guess, the next step up from that, which looks pretty good. 350 candelas brightness. That's pretty damn bright, to be honest with you, especially at monitor distances. Where you're having a display maybe, I don't know, 15 inches from your face. That's going to be it's going to be able to combat some room lighting issues if you have it.
You're not going to have to You're not going to have to close the blinds on any of the windows with that.
And a 27-inch display too. That's, I mean, granted, what is it? They're looking at, there's two different models, one for $800 and one for $900. So tempted. And I need a monitor that has the fully adjustable, it has to be able to be height adjusted and tilt and all of that, so I can get the optimal image quality in my face. But because it's an IPS panel compared to a lot of TS panels or
Right.
like VN style panels too, the viewing angle issue is less. So this might also be good for doing, color critical work as well, although that remains to be seen until somebody actually tests the sucker out. But just having improved viewing angles, although the downside with IPS is that contrast is less than you would get from a VA style panel. In terms of when the screen goes black, typically with an IPS panel, you'd see a little bit extra glow compared to a VA panel. But with the trade-off also with a VA panel being that you kind of have one viewing sweet spot and you shouldn't move your head too much. Otherwise, things will shift in terms of color, brightness, contrast, things like that. So that looks like an awesome looking panel though. And I would be happy to test one of those out if need be.
You'll have to ask Ryan Shroud about
that's,
that one.
I like the design. I like that bezel-less frame too, at least on the, not bezel-less completely, but you look at the top and the side edges, and that's about as thin as you're going to get on any kind of reasonable monitor without it being just way too fragile. So I'm digging it a lot.
I sense more gaming in your future.
I hope so.
Man, I've been on a liquid cooling run for the past few weeks. In fact, there's a Corsair installed in that machine. You can see over my shoulder right there. Cryorig, which is a difficult name for me to say, has their version of the closed loop liquid CPU cooler. And they have a reversible fan that mounts the CPU block. So the idea is that you can actually suck heat, I guess, away from the liquid cooler. Their new A40 Ultimate A80 HLC units are built on the base of Ace-Tech's 5th generation pump and CPU cold block technology with a small but obvious twist with an additional adjustable and detachable airflow fan. The Cryorig A-Series HLC is capable of lowering the temperatures of the components surrounding the CPU by up to 20%. So that's pretty cool. They've got a really nice video that shows the cooling block in effect when the fan fires up. As Sebastian notes, on PC per, any airflow over motherboard components is better than none, though I am slightly worried about increased noise from the 70mm pump-mounted fan providing the hybrid cooling. But it's an interesting idea that they're going to move more air around there. So coming out in Japan November 5th with mid to late November promise for worldwide availability, and we're probably going to see if we can get one of those in for testing. Which brings me to another water cooling moment, an old school CPU water block from Lian Li. This is the CB01. This is their first CPU water block. Sebastian wrote this article up also. Yeah, I don't think anybody expected this. Lian Li is primarily known as a case manufacturer. A solid copper water block, nickel coating, and a final layer of tin cobalt for extra cooling durability and corrosion resistance, which probably gives it a distinctive color. The top is a translucent acrylic block that visibly guides the cooling waters through the microchannels. The simple yet sturdy mounting fits virtually all modern and past motherboard sockets securely. For a bit of flair, there are holes pre-drilled for 5mm lights. And outside of the holes for the 5mm lights, this is extremely similar to the construction we've seen on most water blocks. If you scroll up a little bit, it's a water block, right? It's got a copper base. It's got a big fat acrylic top, and you can see in between those holes, probably if you go to the PC Per website or Lian Li's website, the micro channels, which essentially provide additional surface area to pull water over the heat transferring part of the cooler. Good looking, no MSRP, no actual ship date. And of course, unlike the sealed liquid coolers, you're going to have to turn around and bolt everything together and be very careful you don't drip water on your motherboard. Not that I would know anything about what happens when water hits motherboards.
I've been eyeballing those Corsair Hydra series coolers for my next PC build. I'm still kind of on the fence. I'm not sure if I even really want or need it. But
are you going to overclock?
The current system I'm using, which is pretty old at this point, it was overclocked for years, and now currently I have it all back to stock speeds.
Right.
But I would say probably.
I looked at.
I at least will maximize memory performance, and
Right.
if I can also overclock or even undervolt the CPU at the same frequency, just to reduce its overhead. So I find that these new CPUs nowadays on the Intel side of things have a lot of headroom either way. You can either get away with lowering the voltage a little bit at the same speeds, or you can push it, and sometimes without even changing the speed, the voltages. And it's fun to be able to have just the cooling ability to play with it a little bit like that. So yeah, if I have all those parts lined up, it's real tempting for me to go into a BIOS system and see where it can go, especially if you can get rock solid stability at default voltages or less. Yeah. That's where I'm suddenly like, this is just awesome. I just got free stuff for, with no more heat generation. So
no more heat generation is good. The Skylake tends to want a little bit additional voltage to get its top kind of overclocking. I'm just starting to get serious about overclocking that one. But the Corsair Hydro H110i GTX, we also looked at the H80 sealed liquid cooling system. I was actually surprised at how well it did compared to a standard fan, but I'll talk to you about that offline, because we did that on TechSale and then talked about it on PC Pro a while back. They're so nice. They're so easy to install. Just make sure you have a case that actually has a place for it.
There you go. I have this pretty good sized Noctua cooler. I think that's how you pronounce the name of it. And it has been nothing but phenomenal. That thing is as good as any cooler I've ever used. I also look at coolers like, what was it? The Cooler Master 212. It's another one that's like probably half the price of my current cooler, but it still delivers pretty solid performance overall.
I managed to hide it.
My friends at Intel are quick to point out that their coolers are very good too, but they're built because they're going to make 1 million of these particular coolers. They're looking at just optimizing things like minimize the amount of material that goes into the product and provide just good enough. And that those are the things they look at when Intel builds.
And they tend to be a little
CPUs,
louder.
I can't 100% agree with that.
It was amazing how well this did for like $40 or $50. The Mugen 4, the Scythe Mugen 4.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, air cool. I mean, if you're not overclocking, I don't think you really need liquid cooling unless you think you may want to overclock in the future. But man, what was really amazing for me was how fast the liquid coolers, after you stop doing something particularly intensive, how quickly the cooler would bring down the temperature of the cores. That was kind of amazing at how fast they would do that. But yeah, I'm going to keep pushing the overclocking and see where that ends up. Before we go, you want to answer a couple questions real quick?
I would love to.
At Names Bond tweets, at Patrick Norton, at Robert Heron, I just bought a Vizio M Series 4K TV. Is there a non-streaming way to get 4K content? This is probably not going to be the happiest answer we do today.
No, sorry. Not yet, anyway.
Yeah.
Well,
you could buy a 4K camera and shoot 4K video and then put it in, a USB or an SD card.
You can do it yourself and create your own content, but for commercial content, we're all still kind of waiting on these Ultra HD Blu-ray players that were supposed to be out before the end of the year, but now everyone's saying 2016. So this will probably be like one of the hot products at CES in January in Las Vegas, is that everyone's going to have some kind of a set-top Blu-ray player that supports ultra high definition at up to 60 frames per second, and with expanded color and HDR. And that is going to be like the first big standalone product I think that's going to be out there that supports a variety of non-streaming options for getting that content on your screen. Otherwise, yeah, it's the apps built into the TV. In the Vizio M series case, you have apps like YouTube and Netflix and Amazon that will provide, and there's a few others now too, that provide UHD streaming, but those require accounts or the bandwidth to be able to do that. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of other options out there. Some other manufacturers, like in the case of Samsung, they actually offer a hard drive full of content that you can buy separately. Then you have that locally. Then you can use through some apps on the TV itself. I believe through MGO in particular for their current hard drive offering. But again, that's kind of limited, and it's sort of locked to what's on that hard drive and nothing else really. So Yeah, currently everything is streaming, be it from Amazon or from Netflix or from whoever. It's like the safest way to do it, and it's the way currently to optimize that content for a particular display device easier. In the case of, like, say, Amazon's HDR content, they know what specific TVs currently support that. They're able to optimize that gorgeous looking content for that particular TV and really curate the experience more so than you could, say, by just simply handing someone a Blu-ray player or UHD Blu-ray player. So yeah, unfortunately, no, I don't know of any other options for 4K video. So other than the streaming method at the moment.
There you have it, people.
My long-winded way of saying that.
No, it was a detailed and informative way of saying that. Coffee Man Dave says, at Patrick Norton, at Robert Heron, when are you guys starting your next HD Nation style show?
Coffee Man Dave.
All I can say is that we're in the process of creating the RSS feed for it. And keep an eye on at Patrick Norton or at Robert Heron on Twitter to find out. We will shout from the rooftops the minute it is available for download.
You aren't kidding. It will be announced. I hope soon.
I hope. That would be nice.
Not hope. We will push.
No, we've got 3 episodes in the can.
Shh.
That's it for this episode of This Week in Computer Hardware. Thank you so much, Mr. Robert Heron, for joining me. Heron Fidelity is the place to find all of the most amazing news and information and reviews ever of HDTVs, projectors, home theater gear, cord-cutting stuff, over-the-air tuners. If it's in your living room and makes you happy, Robert can probably help you with it at heronfidelity.com. I'm Patrick Norton. You can find me each and every week with Shannon Morse at TechThing, or actually techthing.com or youtube.com/techthing. And we like to talk about technology and trying to make it behave. And actually this week's show, the show that's going up today, we reviewed the Apple TV. We've got the Nexus 5X, the Nexus 6P reviews are in there. Shannon went berserk with like carrying around 92 Android phones simultaneously, and quite a bit more inside of the show. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to this episode of This Week in Computer Hardware. I'm Patrick Norton.
Hey, and I'm Robert Heron.
We'll talk to you soon on Twitch.